Tonight, something slows you down, just a little. Everything is still where it's supposed to be. The lights, the distant sounds of the street, the familiar rhythm of your routines. And yet, something inside you doesn't feel quite the same anymore. There's a very subtle feeling, gently brushing against you. Hard to name, hard to explain, but enough for you to notice. You're no longer seeing the world the same way you used to. You don't have to rush to understand it. You don't have to figure it all out right now. Just notice that something in you is beginning to feel different. And maybe what matters most isn't what's happening around you, but how you're responding to it. A little slower, a little deeper, a little more honest than before. If you stay with this feeling just a little longer, watch out, you might begin to sense why it's showing up for you right now. Today may have started like any other day. You wake up, move through familiar routines, step outside, and pass through places you've seen 100 times before. Everything is still there. The same roads you've walked more times than you can count. The distant sounds, cars passing by, voices blending into the background, the steady rhythm of life, unchanged. And you're still there too, living inside your own life, just as you always have. But then, something small happens. Nothing dramatic, no clear sign. Just a very subtle pause, as if you slow down for half a beat before moving forward again. And in that pause, something begins to feel different. You may not be able to name it. You can't quite explain it with logic, but you feel it. A very gentle shift. Not in the world around you, but in the way you're seeing it. The scenery hasn't changed, but your perspective has. Things that once triggered an instant reaction now make you pause just a little longer. Things that once felt certain now open into questions you never thought to ask before. And what's interesting is, you're no longer rushing to find answers. You just stand there, in the middle of an ordinary moment, and realize something inside you is moving. Not big, not dramatic, not visible to anyone else, but enough that you can't quite go back to how it used to feel. Maybe for the first time in a while, you're truly noticing where you are in your own life, not through analysis, but through feeling. A quiet awareness that you've already walked through a certain chapter, even if you didn't notice when it happened. And now you're standing in a place that feels unfamiliar, where the past is still close, but the future is beginning to take on new shapes. You don't have to understand it right now. You don't have to name it. You don't have to do anything immediately. Just allow yourself to stay with this feeling a little longer, because sometimes real change doesn't begin with action. It begins with the way you start to feel things differently. And if you stay present long enough, you might begin to realize this isn't just a passing feeling. It's a very quiet door that has just opened somewhere inside you. After that very subtle moment, you may begin to notice something else. What once felt comforting, yet what once felt like a place you could return to without thinking, now doesn't quite reach you the same way. It's not that those things have changed, it's the way you feel about them that has. A conversation that once felt familiar now carries a slight distance. A habit you used to repeat every day now makes you pause, as if you're quietly asking yourself, am I really still here? And sometimes it shows up in a relationship. Nothing is wrong. There's no clear conflict, no obvious reason you can point to. It's just that the connection doesn't hold you the way it used to. And what might surprise you the most is not the change itself, but the way you respond to it. You're no longer trying to fix it, no longer trying to return things to how they were. You're not forcing yourself to feel something just because it once felt that way. You simply notice, very gently, very honestly, and with that noticing comes a kind of calm you didn't expect, as if you're standing in a space that's still familiar, but seeing it from a new distance. Not to walk away immediately, not to hold on tightly, but just to see clearly what still fits and what is quietly falling behind. There may have been a time when changes like this would have confused you. You might have wondered if you were losing something. But this time, that feeling doesn't feel as strong. Instead, there's a quiet acceptance, a deeper understanding that not everything that leaves is a loss. Some things have simply completed their role. And you're changing too, in your own way. No announcement needed, no explanation for the world, not even a need to say it out loud to yourself. Just a shift within, subtle, but undeniable. And if you listen closely enough, you may begin to realize this isn't about drifting away from something. It's about moving closer to a more honest version of who you truly are. And then, after you've moved through those quiet realizations, something else begins to emerge. Not out there in the world, but in the way you meet silence. There was a time when silence felt uncomfortable. You may have filled it quickly, with sound, with back-to-back conversations, or simply by keeping yourself busy, as if you stayed still for too long, you might have to face something you weren't ready to see. But lately, something in you has shifted. Silence no longer feels empty. It no longer feels like a space that needs to be filled. Instead, it becomes a space of its own. A space wide enough for you to slow your breathing. A space where you don't have to react right away. A space where you can stay with yourself, just a little longer. You begin to notice you don't always need to speak. You don't always need to explain. You don't always need to keep everything moving. Some things are simply meant to be felt. And within that stillness, a new kind of listening begins. Not listening to the outside world, but listening to the quiet movements within you. A passing feeling, an unfinished thought, something you once overlooked because it was too subtle to notice before. Now, you begin to hear it, not as clear answers, not as a fixed direction, but as very delicate signals, soft yet real. And what's different now is you're no longer rushing to interpret them. You don't need to understand everything right away. You don't need to turn every feeling into a decision. You simply stay right there with yourself. Maybe for the first time in a long while, you're allowing yourself not to be pulled by the rhythm of the outside world. You're no longer chasing everything. You're beginning to choose when to pause. And in that pause, you start to realize something deeper. That clarity doesn't always come from searching for more. Sometimes it comes from becoming still long enough, not to find an answer right away, but to notice what still echoes within you when all the noise begins to fade. And if you pay close attention, you may begin to feel this silence isn't empty at all. It's carrying something very subtle, but enough to guide you forward in a way that is slower, deeper, and more honest to who you truly are. And then, as you begin to grow familiar with that stillness, something else starts to unfold. Very quietly, but deeper than you might expect. You may not notice it right away. There's no clear moment to mark it, no big decision being made, and yet, somewhere within you, a kind of letting go is already happening. Not the kind of letting go you once imagined. Not cutting things off, not walking away in pain, not a dramatic choice. This is something else. It happens slowly, like a leaf releasing from a branch when the time is right. You're no longer trying to hold on to the things you once believed you had to keep. Not because they were wrong, but simply, they no longer fit who you are now. And what's different is, you don't need to convince yourself of that anymore. You don't sit there trying to analyze everything like before. You don't search for a reason big enough to justify moving forward. You simply stop holding on. It could be an old belief you once trusted, a way of seeing things you used to cling to, an expectation you once placed on yourself. Now, you begin to set them down, gently, no noise, no resistance the way you might have expected. Just a quiet feeling that you don't need to carry everything anymore. And in that moment, you begin to notice something unexpected. You're not losing anything. If anything, you're becoming lighter. Lighter in the way you can breathe a little deeper. Lighter in the way you're no longer being pulled backward by things that no longer belong to you. It's as if a space is opening within you, a space that was once filled with thoughts, with worries, with things you held on to simply because they felt familiar. And now, that space begins to feel more open, not empty, but available. Available for something new to enter when it truly belongs. You don't have to rush to fill that space. You don't have to find something to replace it right away. You just begin to see. Letting go is not an ending. Sometimes, it's the way you return energy back to yourself. Energy you may not have realized you were giving away for so long. And if you listen closely enough, you may begin to understand. This kind of release doesn't make you smaller. It allows you to become more expansive. And then, as you begin to release what no longer feels necessary, a different kind of space starts to open within you. Not emptiness, but a kind of stillness. Wide enough for you to notice more subtle signals. You may not be able to name it right away. There's no clear moment of figuring it out. No answers waiting to be handed to you. And yet, something is becoming clearer in a very quiet way. You begin to feel it, not through logic, not through the patterns you once relied on, but through a softer kind of awareness, as if you're hearing a sound from far away. And somehow, it's still close enough for you to know it's there. A new direction may begin to appear, not as a defined plan, but as a passing thought that makes you pause just a little longer. A new idea may come, not loudly, but with a different kind of feeling, a genuine curiosity you can't quite ignore the way you used to. And sometimes, it's just a very quiet sense that maybe you want to try something different. Not because the old way was wrong, not because you're being forced to change, but simply, you no longer feel like you belong to that path anymore. And what's interesting is, you don't rush to turn these feelings into decisions. You don't need to make a plan right away. You don't need to define a destination. You just begin to trust those small signals, as if you're learning how to walk again, not by seeing the entire road ahead, but by feeling the ground beneath each step. Each step doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be certain. It just needs to be true to what you feel in that moment. And slowly, you begin to realize something you may not have considered before. You don't need to know everything in order to begin. You don't need all the answers to move forward. There are paths that only reveal themselves after you've taken the first few steps. And your intuition, it's not a loud voice. It's not a clear command. It's more like a gentle guidance. Always there, but only becoming clear when you truly listen. There may have been a time when you ignored it because it felt too small, because it didn't seem logical, because it didn't match what you were taught about making decisions. But now, you begin to trust it a little more, not blindly, but with a quiet kind of trust built from your own real experiences. And as you allow yourself to follow those signals, even in very small steps, you may begin to notice you no longer feel as lost as before, not because you've figured everything out, but because you're learning to trust yourself. And sometimes, that alone is enough to keep going. And then, after moving through all those subtle shifts, you begin to look back, not to analyze, but simply to notice. And that not every change arrives like a storm. Not everything comes with clear signs. Not every moment has a defined before and after for you to easily recognize. Some changes simply happen, little by little, very slowly, very deeply. Like the way light changes in a room, you don't notice it when it first begins, but at some point, you suddenly realize everything feels different. There may have been a time when you believed that real transformation had to come with intensity, with strong emotion, with a decisive moment, with something clear enough that you couldn't mistake it. But now, what you're experiencing feels different. It doesn't push you. It doesn't force you to change. It just exists. A feeling that is very real, very close, and somehow impossible to return from once you've noticed it. And maybe what matters most is not that you understand it right away, not that you can clearly define what's happening, but that you allow yourself to stay with it. No rushing, no judgment, no need to turn it into a complete answer. Just being there, within the feeling you're holding, within the moment you're living, within that very subtle shift happening inside you. Because sometimes, the things that truly matter don't need to be understood right away. They need to be felt first. And when you allow yourself to feel them long enough, they begin to unfold in their own way. Without urgency, without pressure, without following any fixed pattern. Maybe tonight, You simply notice something small, a thought that feels different, a feeling that feels unfamiliar, a new way of seeing your own life, and that is already enough. You don't have to turn it into a major turning point. You don't have to tell it like a dramatic story, because real change often begins in moments that feel completely ordinary. And if you're still here, still listening, maybe you've felt something subtle within yourself too. You don't have to be certain. You don't have to be clear. Just know you've begun to notice. And sometimes, that awareness is the very first door opening into a new path. Not to become someone else, but to slowly return, closer to who you truly are.